Good morning, everybody. It's Friday here. Policing Pips live stream. A really good week so far, and we're going to go ahead and close it up with another good, solid, well-executed day, trading our plan, not doing dumb shit, and not giving away our week, right? You see our 100K, we're up about 700 this week, up a good 1,500 on the week and each of these other accounts, so willing to give back not a lot of it. So we're going to go ahead and just trade those A-plus executions. We did have core PCE price index, personal income and personal spending come out at 730. All came in basically in line. PCE came in just slightly higher than expected. You got that open, push down, push up, whipped around, and now we've kind of sold off from it. You can see the previous overnight high was right here at that 19,222 and a quarter level. So potentially We might, if we do get up into that overnight high level, we might not be clearing and cleaning up this entire 19,236. That is that number high, that news release algo high. So that's something that I would be watching. More of a zone at, obviously they're always zones, but if you watch this level right here, that's the actual pre-market high. Kind of comes in line with the 220, even level there. So it's definitely a reactive zone. So if it comes up into here, we get a nice little, rising wedge setup or some sort of divergence, and it doesn't quite make overnight highs, then potentially we look to fade that. We're obviously not in the business of just executing immediately as we get there. That's not how I do things. That's how I kind of keep myself in line, keep myself in check. Overall, like I said, we're just going to be patient today. It's Friday. Fridays of late, this entire year, seemingly, tend to get trendy at some point during the day. Usually it's, trending one way early and then flips the other way and trends the other way the rest of the day. I'm going to try Friday, third Tuesday, Monday, Friday the 19th, we opened, whipped up, and sold off pretty much all the way till 1 o'clock. Then just caught a little bit of a bid at the major structure level. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Nope, that was last Friday. So the Friday prior was a lot higher up. Friday before that, we trended up on a bounce play all the way up, and then around 1,300 started to get that sell-off. So if you are somebody who's trying to play maybe that morning trend one way, watch for that 1 o'clock change in direction for this market to kind of pick a direction and go. We're kind of sitting on one of my levels at 19,154, which is right around here. Could see some, whippy action around here on the open with the market right on VWAP. I had a crazy thunderstorm last night, so I came and shut my computer off, which I normally don't do. So I got to reopen a lot of things and get things going. So if we kind of flush into VWAP here, I would anticipate maybe a bounce. If not, could just be an open and go for the rest of the day. We'll see what happens. Looks pretty heavy to start. I'm going to be very patient. If we can get down into those lows, that'd be great. The overnight low. That's going to be a nice little bounce point there. We flushed. You could see that this is possibly a trend line here, a support level right there. Not going to jump into this immediately. We're going to go and be patient, let the days shape up for us. That was a nice dump right off the jump. Right? I mean, basically still downtrending. The news candle manipulated the overnight high realistically. So this timing right here is really good for that short at the overnight high. I don't trade pre-market or news events directly. I like to just use the information to my advantage. We're going to go ahead and give ourselves our opening range as we do every single day. So we'll go opening range here. I like to make sure I get it pretty much exact. So I go on the candle. The high is 166 quarter and the low is 119 and 3/4. 166 quarters, 119 and 3/4. That's your opening range right there. We are dancing around the VWAP, not my execution area. There is decisions to be made. That opening range there is, oh, where's my mouse? There we go. Come on. Doesn't want to go. There we go. Okay. yeah, that opening range was 185 ticks. That's a very, very wide opening range. Kind of going to be tricky to see if that's going to be indicative of anything going out forward in the day. Are we going to expand today? Are we going to get some big price action? I'm going to maybe do some back testing, some correlation testing on does that opening range width do anything as according to like will the day be expansive or is it going to be a range type day? Because we've had some tighter opening ranges lately, except for Monday as well. We kind of basically took the opening range straight on Monday since we were on the overnight high, made pretty good money on it. But we're not going to do that right now. We're too tight to VWAP. I mean, I do believe that a flush lower could push us into those overnight lows, and then we'll start to get interested down there. Anything up overhead, I would like that opportunity to get short from the overnight highs. I drew that white line there because really before the news candle, that was the overnight high. So I want to kind of be involved at that level. Good morning, Carlos. How we doing? What's up? Goodbye. Boy peeked his head in the room and left. NVIDIA is kind of sitting in the pre-market range here. We do have this is like kind of yesterday's open, kind of sitting right on top of yesterday's open. There were sellers here yesterday. It got recovered completely and then just based out. So we're kind of sitting in that consolidated zone there. I mentioned right just before market open, Fridays tend to trend a little bit. So if the trend gets chosen to the downside, expect that to continue on all the way basically till that 1 o'clock. We do have some support down here. I don't know if I want to just hammer right in. I'm not going to hammer right into it. We do have a small gap up that needs to still be cleaned up. I think technically it got cleaned right there. That touch of it cleaned up the gap from the overnight. Hell yeah. That's all we can do is try to finish every week green. You're not going to, some days are going to be red, some days are going to be green. As long as you manage your risk properly, if you end every week green or every month green, then that's when you become consistent long term. When you start worrying about too many individual intraday P&L swings, it's going to kind of drive you nuts because that's going to happen day to day. Obviously, we want to be perfect. We want to try and do our best. But at the end of the day, it's all about ending that week green, and that's where we're at right now. Friday Fun Day, as I like to call it. Some people call it Capital Preservation Friday. Some people call it Friday. I don't see any huge size on the book right now. I see some flashing larger orders that kind of come and go. Nothing, we're getting a little whippy here. I don't think we have any news of any sort. Russell's running upside as expected with the S&Ps and the NQs kind of creeping down. So Russell's been kind of taking the lead all week. We've been selling off. You can tell the flows have come out of the big caps and into the small caps. So that's something that just to be noting, it's not always a direct correlation. It's not always a great indicator, but sometimes they catch up and then they start working together. Right now we are holding this 1 minute opening range low. Got the color changing mug today so you can tell how much coffee I have left in my cup at all times. And once I come down to 0, you're going to know I'm going to look for that refill. So this is very indecisive right now, right here. If you don't have a plan for this move, then, I wouldn't be executing. Like I said, it is Friday. Don't just throw your money back to the market. Keep as much of it as you possibly can. If you are green on the week, be picky on Fridays, especially in the summer months. Even, it's been very volatile of late, but it's still the summer. And there is still the chance that we do get some Friday type summer trading here in these markets. So just understand what season we're in, where we're at. We're gonna, continue to have these. If this is how the summer months are gonna go with good volatility, good opportunities. We're able to make money on a day-to-day basis. There's still volatility. I know it's an election year, so it is a little bit more volatile than other years. So just, understand every season that you're in, understand what kind of happens during that seasonality. If the volume dissipates, if the volatility dissipates, if you're not going to get as many opportunities, you have to be super selective. And Fridays tend to be that, where are these big players going? They're going to the Hamptons for the weekend. Are they going to go to their lake house? What are they doing? They want to get out of the markets early, probably, if not be in at all, right? So just understand what kind of conditions we're in. Even me, if I got something early, if we were opening on an overnight high and I took that short, or if I opening on the overnight low, I took the long from there. If we were to able to get that quick money and be done, I was going to lock out immediately, take my one winner and be done. So I think, yeah, you learn that lesson. It's amazing how, it teaches you. The market will teach you and humble you, and it'll give you that information and that feedback pretty quick if you don't understand the seasonality and understand the amount of volume you need to trade. That's why we trade the front month contract. Yes, there's other contracts running right now. There's the following couple contracts are still out there live. We don't trade them because they don't have the volume. They don't have the volatility. Maybe there's some sort of arbitrage play that people do trade those other longer out contracts, but most of the time you want to trade where there's the volatility. You want to trade where the liquidity is and be able to make executions. Currently, not doing much of anything. S&P's is getting stronger relatively to the NASDAQ. So if we can see, yesterday NASDAQ dragged the S&P's downside compared to how it was, right? This was kind of very similar to how we set up yesterday. NASDAQ was rolling over, except NASDAQ continued to go down while S&P's was holding up relatively strong. So if you start to see the NQ rotate further down, maybe the S&P does the same thing and catches up today and plays that lag play. Just kind of things you got to think about while you're watching, while you're kind of understanding, what happened yesterday. Could that happen again today? Or is the S&P going to be the leader this time? What's NVIDIA? What's Microsoft doing? What's Apple doing? Microsoft, kind of just hanging around the lows, using support here at the 419.25. NVIDIA is creeping back up, trying to hold over yesterday's kind of open and the peak high. So just, understand those things. We are making higher lows into this shorter term uptrend, I should say. Our NQ 30-minute chart right here, if you look at it, this downtrend, this blue line was the bottom end of a channel that I kind of had drawn up, and we could see kind of we're reactive around it. We've flushed it kind of nice. We've recovered back through it. We're coming back to retest it. Are we going to rotate back this direction after a long week of selling? Will there be profit taking at some point today? Does that come down to the overnight lows down into this range here and start to pop off that line and recover? Or are we going to get through this line and flush through yesterday's lows and just continue this trend to the downside, right? So like I mentioned, you can see S&P, NQ is leading us downside. S&P is lagging the, still pushing up. We need to see which one's going to lead us, which one's going to make the other one make a move. NVIDIA is starting to sell a little, still within that opening range. Not the opening range, the pre-market range. So there's that. Pretty much right here, this is me not doing dumb shit, staying away. We're dead center, middle of my range of overnight high to overnight low. There's nothing for me to execute on here. Yes, there are trades to be had. There's something to be said about the divergence right now between the S&P and the NASDAQ. So if you are that kind of trader and if you are going to be a little aggressive on these, maybe watch that. Watch for the NQ to sell off hard and start to push down lower, and the NQ on the S&Ps stay up here. If you get this flush through here, maybe the breakthrough the opening range low gives you a good risk to reward opportunity to get a continuation down to overnight lows as well with the S&Ps, right? It was the same play yesterday. If you want to capitalize on it today, could be a good opportunity. For me, like I said, I'm just trying to stay disciplined, especially on a Friday. I do not want to deviate from my plan at all, especially this week. I'm securing another green week. No matter what, if I lose you know, the drawdown limit that I have set for myself, I will be still in the green for the week, which is great. One bad day can't ruin the whole week, which is nice. But for me, realistically, like I said, I'm not looking to execute something that I'm just speculating on. I want something to force my hand on the trade. Maybe when the buffer is bigger, maybe when I have a larger account size rolling at the moment, I will take some of those, and I'll let you know when I'm going to start, adapting my plan and coming up with it. But until these levels and these opportunities that I get around the levels stop working, on a consistent basis, then that's when I'll make an adjustment. But until then, there's no reason for me to deviate from what's working, what's building my buffer, what's building my account size. We'll go into it later on in the stream today, probably. If I get an opportunity a little bit later, or if I get an opportunity to lock out, or whatever happens when it does happen, when my hand gets forced. If we never come to touch the overnight high or the overnight low, that is just bad trading conditions for, anybody to be trading in. So I wouldn't touch it. There's no reason to execute. So at some point during the day, those levels should get touched. Then you can make a decision whether it's going to be a continuation play, whether it's going to be a failed breakout, whether it's going to rotate the other direction. It's all relative to what's happening at that moment in time. Like I said, for me, it's just kind of a wait and see what's going on. But we will go over the week, the month, as we get there. Could do a little bit of it now, but I don't want to necessarily mess up the chart. So I'm going to just leave it alone for now. Leave it alone. My S&P charts here, the yellow line's the overnight high and low. The red line here is the previous day low, and the white line was the previous day high, but I did not adjust it. There we go. I haven't been doing a lot of that with the S&Ps. If you want me to do the same levels, same kind of color coordination, I will do that, but I guess I'll do it. Let me get blue. Overnight high, overnight low, and the yellow zones. Previous day high, previous day low, and then these are the zones. So this should be green, actually. And this is the overnight high. This will be blue. There you go. Now you have the same color coordination of the levels, just in case you got confused at all on the S&Ps. We'd like to see if we do get the S&Ps over the overnight high, where the NQ is relatively. If we can't get this NQ to play along to the upside, the failed break of the overnight high could be a good play for the S&P. If you start to see the NQ creep up, wait on this. This timing may be better if you can get this NQ to then run up to the overnight high and reject, right? So just kind of figure out what's going to work. S&P seems to be leading us. S&Pizzle. I do like to stay out of this. So good on, hopefully you guys are, using your wits about you and holding on and not trading these choppy zones around VWAP. Like I said, the reason I don't trade, for me personally, I understand why VWAP is a really great entry tool. Maybe even more so for the S&Ps. The NQ too, the NQ manipulates a lot. So the ability for us to make a good informed decision right at VWAP for like an entry criteria, for me, it just doesn't quite work unless I'm going to be scaling in, giving a large stop, maybe trading like micros, or if I have a very large buffer with full minis. If you kind of, enter, give yourself a very wide buffer if you're looking to go short, or the other end of it, where the rejections take place. You can see really just kind of gets through it, fails it, comes back down. S&Ps, it'll fail it and rotate back, and then you'll definitely get confirmation that you're going to rotate the other direction, at least a good, 10 points. At this point, NQ still showing relative weakness coming into that support level of 19,076. Right there. That's a kind of a longer term structure level, as well as that downtrend bottom end of the channel. Still don't know who's leading, right? Because S&P is still relatively strong, and NASDAQ relatively weak. Using the VWAP as your strong weak barometer. NVIDIA is selling a little bit more than everything else. We are still within that opening range. That pre-market range. Hasn't quite broke down through where we gapped up. We gapped up from the overnight session, or the post-market after-hour session, from 112.23 up to 113.44. Could come down and clean that gap up, and which could drive us down to the overnight low. And then in turn, if NVIDIA rotates off that, then potentially the pop comes. I would like to see the NQ show me that manipulation through the overnight low, right? And then down into, we have this area here that could be a good enough area for there to be, a sweep manipulation into these areas here to get some orders and then pop. If we're getting all the way down into overnight lows in NQ, and S&P is still lagging quite a bit, like I said yesterday, if we can crack through VWAP and get through this opening range low, 1 minute opening range low, then it should catch up and give you that opportunity. So if that's something that you're looking at, don't be hesitant. All right, you can tell the pounded that coffee down today here Friday morning. It's 8:50 a.m. Still unsure of direction. We haven't had anything really convincing right now, right? You do have both indexes telling you different stories here. NASDAQ relatively weak, S&P still relatively strong, right? Opening range here, we're below it on the NQ, above in the S&Ps, above VWAP, below VWAP. The cumulative delta here. We showed a pop in aggressive buyers through VWAP, and then a fail down through it. Aggressive sellers came in, made deeper lows in price, not as deep in the delta. So, it's not going to be exact, but as long as you're seeing that aggressive selling, you're going to start to see this pour into the lows. Hopefully we can get down into that low, overnight low, and we can make a decision down there on what we want to do. Whether it's going to be an A+ setup or not, it's yet to be seen, but at least we will have the opportunity to make that decision if we get there. I think if NVIDIA does test this bottom end of the pre-market low here at 113.44, so if it tests that level right there, that dashed line right where my crosshairs are, if it tests that, it probably breaks and cleans up this little gap that it made, and then maybe we'll see some support here for a rotation higher, which gives me the confidence to think that that gap fill pushes us to the overnight lows, and then we rotate off of that to the highs. But we could be just lingering right here to give another pop, and then we'll see what happens at the overnight highs. But right now, just avoiding diddling in the middle, avoiding that, just that need to click buttons. There's no need to be clicking buttons. I'm perfectly content on sitting on my hands. We did a really great job of that on Wednesday. We even journaled it. We made notes of it in our Top Step X platform, that we executed according to our plan. We didn't quite get an A+ setup. We had opportunities that possibly could have been executed on. However, we just did not have that chance to, it wasn't an A+ setup for me. So the plan is don't take it unless it's at or around your levels and according to your plan. And maybe, thinking through it, we could take those short continuations on it, but you have to be really ready to go and very aggressive. And most of my strategy is playing the failed breakouts, playing a mean reversion. So it's not picking bottoms and tops. It's just understanding market dynamics and figuring out if price wants to go one direction, it needs to confirm and hold. And if it doesn't, it usually will rotate back the other direction to find more buyers or find more sellers at that location. So that's what I look for at those key levels. And then from there, I make my decisions. I think realistically, like I said, as long as we kind of linger in this middle, there's no trade execution for me. There's no opportunity for me to make a decision here that's going to be educated, that's going to be at a level where I'm going to be able to make a good, sound decision on limiting my risk and being right very quickly or wrong very quickly, right? I'm trying to get into a place where I'm not taking any heat on the trade. I'm getting in and getting out pretty quickly, or I'm getting in and I'm able to manage my risk quick enough where, I've taken that risk off the table and now it's free money, right? Anything after that, being able to be free money is good for me. I'm not out here looking to slam home run after home run. You can make a great living doing this if you just take your base hits. You can see we're up 2,100 across this account and another account here. This one's up 2,150. This one's up 2,137. This one's up 771. So that's just all in the matter of the last 2 weeks worth of trading. You scale that up as you get bigger and bigger, then you can just take those base hits, take those small little movers, and make your money, right? If you could have the opportunity to play some of these long-term holds through some of the manipulation and swing trade the indexes, you can make really, really good money swing trading the indexes, but you have to have bigger balances. You can't trade on funded prop firms because you can't hold funded accounts overnight because margin requirements go pretty high compared to intraday trading, right? And overnight is only that 1 hour that the market's closed, but that margin requirement could get you hurt. And a lot of these brokerages too that offer lower margins, if there's news releases, which there are every single week, they'll increase those margins for the overnight holds. So you can go into the swing trades with smaller position sizes to catch bigger parts of these moves. You got to just understand that that's something that's a possibility. When I was trading for T3 and we were doing equity stuff, we were allowed to hold stuff overnight only if we got approval from the firm. And also, you kind of are not ever executing for a swing. You're executing for a good intraday position where you're going to catch X number of points a day. And if you catch a really nice runner and you've trailed out according to your rules and there's still plenty of room, you can get approval from the fund to say, yes, okay, you can hold this overnight because the overnight risk is not as great because a lot of times you'll gap down below a stop level and then you have to worry about that on some of those swing trades. So that's kind of another reason a lot of the props don't like you to hold overnight. But you learn to manage a day trade into a swing that kind of becomes a bigger position, and those are more position trades. They're not really, they're day trades that turn into bigger positions, and that's something that you can do as you have bigger account sizes, as you have plans and on trailing rules, and more realistically, you're not going to do it on futures, if you do it on futures, it's going to be on a personal brokerage because you can't do that on any of these funding funds or funding companies or prop firms or whatever you want to call them. You can't hold overnight. That breaks your rules. So be careful if you forget, be flat by market close. There's no reason to be open anyway after that. Some of these moves that happen after hours do get very whippy. You're going to get, slippage, a lot of slippage on it. there's some dancing going around on the bid ask currently, so possibly a timing right now on a move that could be happening. I could see it speeding up here in the bid ask. It's getting a little whippy. For some reason, it's a little wide for normal trading. It's probably just getting thin for whatever this next move that they're about to make. You could see when it gets thin, it jumps up and down, and like that means they're just not orders on the book in between these levels. That's the only thing that it means. It means that the people are just done executing here. It's going to get tighter as we move up, but if it gets thin like that, that's you kind of indicate that there's going to be some sort of movement. It doesn't tell me a direction. It just tells me that it's getting the book is getting thin. There's not as many orders on it, not ready to go in between these areas. You can see the red and green as they spread apart, the bid-ask spread there. There's not a lot of orders there. And then you'll start to see it get really wide and really weird. And that's what happens. A lot of people don't understand that once they get in there into those live markets, when you're on your personal brokerage account, the slippage is real, baby. But as long as you trade these thick markets and you execute according to your plan and stay away from some of these whippy times, there's going to be times it's going to happen. But if you could avoid them, then that's the best thing. Carlos in YouTube says, what you put in maximum daily loss, liquidate, and block, and in maximum daily profit, it has to be less than 1,500. So it doesn't have to be less than 1,500. It just can't be more than 1,500 because if you're on a 50K account, you don't want to make 50% of your profits in one day. So on the 50K combine, I would set my personal daily profit target to be $1,520, just a little bit over it, because sometimes if you liquidate right at 1,500, it doesn't make the 1,500. And I'd rather make, $20 extra, $15 extra on the next, if I made a bigger win there. You're likely to get 15 extra bucks. Like, that's not a big deal. You just don't want to go well above it. You don't want to make it so you have to make another 1,000, you don't even want to make it so you have to make another 100. So I usually set that personal daily profit target to 1,520, 1,500, and sometimes I put it at 1,505, but it just really depends on the market environment and how I've seen fills go. So yeah. And then on maximum daily loss limit, I do put liquidate and block. So if I hit the $500 maximum personal daily loss limit that you can see right here on the top, it will liquidate me immediately. As soon as my account hits that negative 500, it's going to cancel me out of all positions. It's going to flatten me. And then I'm going to get, you can see how when it got, and we got a frozen candle there. So be careful. I don't know what just came. 9 o'clock came. This is why I wait for those hourly closes. You can see what happens to that price. Look at that spread. That's weird right now. Very, very thin. What's going on? We got news? What's the news right now? Consumer sentiment. I guess that's just a 2-star event, but it is enough to move us. Good thing we were flat, 66.4 as opposed to 66. So consumers are slightly more confident than expected, but less confident than in previous month. 5-year inflation expectations still have not populated on my chart here. 68.8. I think that's a good reason to have been flat. 3% consumer sentiment. Now we can see if the price is going to make a decision. It was waiting for that 9 o'clock number. Normally, I wouldn't say that was important. I mean, it was. A 2-star event always will move us a little bit. That was just the number. That's why I'm always flat or if I'm not flat, I'm managing my position. If I'm 5 minutes into the hourly close, so you could see the reasoning right there, right, is because even if I don't know a number is coming out, if I don't realize, that 2-star will move us, right? Because we did have those red folder events this morning that didn't move us crazy at 7:30. That was a little whippy. You saw the market getting very thin. I was talking about how it got thin. You can see the bid-ask spread getting very, very wide. You were seeing lots of less orders on the book. So the orders on the book, meaning that when you are trading, you're putting orders out here, it's going on the order book and it's sitting in here in the order flow, and you wait in order, right? It's first in, first out kind of deal. So you have to understand the dynamics of order flow and seeing, okay, there's not a lot of orders on this, on the book, on the level 2s. You're seeing that they're not there, right? And now that number came out, you could see it's tighter, it's cleaner moves. You can see bigger size popping in and out, right? Now we're actually getting interested participants coming into this market. Now that number is gone, there's less of it's like a pressure release valve. And now we can kind of get a little bit better of an idea. So S&Ps tagging off on the overnight high for them, and the NQ trying to creep up through the opening range high. I'm going to be cautious on this overnight high break, thinking that it possibly could be more confirmed, just based on it being Friday and how it trends on Fridays, right? And how I mentioned that. If this NQ rolls through this opening range low and holds, then that failure of this opening range high in the S&Ps could be a good short for anybody looking at that. However, don't quote me on that. I don't think we're going to do that. I think the NQ has the more likely opportunity to come up and get into this, this zone here between the white and the blue line before decisions get made. This is just purely Friday, summer months, a news algo kind of just whipped us around and back into the opening range, back on VWAP. Not getting movement coming right now. Understand your dynamics, understand your seasonality. There will be a move. It will happen. If we don't catch it, if we don't get the opportunity at any of those levels, if I don't get anything to tag off the overnight high or the overnight low or previous day high or previous day low, right? Those are my 4 really key levels where I find my strategy to be the most successful, to be the most reactive, because those are areas where decisions need to be made. Do we want to get out of the opening range, the overnight range? Do we want to get out of the overnight highs? Do we want to get out of the previous day's range? Or are we going to stay inside? Are we going to be range bound? That tells me a lot about what the day wants to do and where price wants to go moving forward. It's very, like I said, it's very dynamic. It's fluid. It moves and it goes, and there's bigger players coming in and out, and there's information that constantly plays a role in this market. So like I talked about here, I'm not taking it, but if you were to see this break, I'm going to say it right now, I'm not executing here. However, I do think if this goes here, then you can watch the S&Ps, this right there being the rejection point, rotate down. As this approaches this overnight low, you could probably even see this crack through the opening range, and that's already giving you a really good risk to reward, because if you're risking to the high of these candles here, you're already in the money, haven't taken any real heat on it. Maybe even if you wait for a retest, but I doubt it. I think if this can flow through here, then you can flow through there. Use these levels to give yourself good risk management on either. So if I were to have, maybe this was earlier in the week or something like that, this strategy that I use, you can use it on either, the S&Ps or the NQ, right? If I find which one's lagging or which one's diverging or where the price is kind of pulling down to, and understand what's going on with this, what's going on with the NASDAQ, why is it leading to the downside, and why will this now sell here as opposed to why wouldn't it sell in this range here, right? Decisions get made at key levels, and you need to be able to recognize that and get involved at those levels and be able to see, okay, I talked about it. If you want to rewind it, you could rewind it, but right there, I gave you from 92 down to, you're up already 10 points on this S&P move. And I think any potential flush, this continues to catch up. And now you have a better risk to reward in the S&Ps. You can hold it. It's a lot less whippy. You can get this down all the way through. The more NQ dumps, the more S&P is going to follow through with it. Like I said, NVIDIA is approaching back down to that low again. And if it can get through that low and close that gap, that'll help accelerate your short from the top on the S&P. So hopefully, Ray, you might have caught that. That's your S&P level of the day. That was your S&P trade of the day. So far, so good on it. I don't know how well you're going to hold it or not, but I'm talking to you, Ray. You get me. Use the divergences to your advantage. Use our key levels. I didn't even have to use Delta or anything. You whipped out for a whopping $120 as far as positive. You made $120. How'd you get whipped out on this? It never really even came back. You took the S&P or you took the NQ? You said you were going to trade the S&Ps. Did you stick to your plan or did you deviate? What whipped you out? Where'd you enter? You entered too early and then didn't wait? Where'd you go? Who's whipping you out on this? So with this S&Ps, the strategy is slightly different. So I don't know if I made it clear or not last night when we were texting, but you reject a level, you could throw your stop above this level, or if you entered here, it's very much respected. Like once you get these 3 wicks and you start to rotate down, basically that's right at this timing here. You could have shorted immediately after that break, shorted here, and then never took any heat. If you went to break even, like I said, S&P's moves clean. It doesn't manipulate as much. So if you have your momentum pushing down, NQ's pushing down, it's catching up, you're going to get this entire follow through here. So really, you got to adjust your trailing idea on the S&P to be it's a much slower, it's a much slower, much thicker market. So it's not going to be as super whippy. It'll move a little bit, but it's not going to be the way NQ manipulates. So if you got short at 54.91 and got break even, it wasn't. But you had to wait. You didn't wait for the timing to see what was going to happen here to move your stop. You just kind of went 54.91 break even, and then you got to wait for like that hold. I mean, there's only 1 minute, so you got to let that candle close a little bit before you move it. Like I said, it's just not as whippy as the NQ, right? So if you were to risk this, you would have every right to kind of just sit in it a little longer, right? My NQ strategy is to move fast. Fast moves, fast trails, right? With the NQ, when it comes to the S&Ps, same deal, fast moves, fast trails, but you'll see when the S&P is fast and when it's not. It's very slow. It's very methodical in the way it moves compared to the NQ, right? It just, you see it, right? It just drifts up, drifts down. It'll go like 1-2 ticks at a time. It's not going to move like how the NQ goes a whole point and goes a whole point back. If you see a manipulation like that, it's likely that it's going to rotate the other direction. S&Ps, like I said, is very clean to see. I kind of just liked that divergence for you. As long as you made some money on it, good. But understand that I guess you're going to have to just know the behaviors of the S&Ps a little bit more as far as how whippy it's going to be at a key level, right? Unless you entered early before the break and then waited and then didn't, and then that was it. But just got to time it. That's all. As long as you made money on it, you're good. Kind of tried to talk through it. I don't know if you had it muted or if you had it ready to go listening to what I was saying, but kind of have to be, with the timing of it. It takes some time for it, right? If that's what you're looking to switch into. Because really today there's not an NQ trade. We have not got to the overnight highs. We have not got to the overnight lows. We're stuck in the middle. We're diddling in the middle, range bound, manipulating, gathering orders for whatever is going to happen. But you could see that once you reject it, it's dragged down that S&Ps. Does this retest of the level now bring us and break us to these previous day highs? Potentially it could. We're holding above. S&Ps was relatively strong, and we're back to that, divergence here again. Relative weakness, relative strength. We just need to see how this all goes. You did get the NVIDIA manipulation into that gap and then right back up. So it doesn't want to. It doesn't do that on the S&Ps. So you have to pick a different behavior type in the S&Ps. S&Ps is all levels, and it doesn't whip. It doesn't manipulate like the NQ does. So like I mentioned to you last night, it's the same type of instrument, but it has different behavior patterns. So you don't have to wait for those wedges. You don't have to wait for certain things to set up. You have to understand that it rejects levels a lot more clean. When you go this weekend and you kind of chart it up and you start to look at those daily levels and some of those more important key longer term levels, you'll see that the S&Ps will hit a level and turn around. or if it breaches it and holds, it'll tend to continue on. The failed breakout idea in the S&Ps is less, it's less whippy. You don't have to be as, quick with it. You can see it coming. It'll set up for you, and then you can rotate off of it like this. This would be as much of a, wicking pattern as you would need to see at a key level with the divergence to kind of drag you down. So like I said, it's not the same instrument. You do have to understand the behaviors of it compared to the NQ. You'll get very similar chart patterns, right? Very similar chart patterns, but with the rejections and with the manipulations around levels, it's going to have slightly different indicators on what is going on. And, if you have if you see huge size, if you start to get into level 2s and stuff, if you see a really big seller sitting at 54.92, a lot of people are running in front of it. And if 92 gets filled, there's a good chance it's going to run and get through it right if that guy gives up. And if it ever gets to it, a lot of times you'll see big size and people front run the big size and it sells just before a level or right at a level because that guy, they're trying to front run that big player and catch that move off of what that big player is doing. Because it's a little more obvious, I think, in the S&Ps than it is in the S&P. It's a little more obvious in the S&Ps than it is in the NASDAQ. And I don't trade it because I've just had a good relationship with the NQ currently. When I find the need to switch back to it or add to, another playbook, I will. I called out that move there, probably could have took it. Everything about the strategy is great. But like I said, since it is Friday, for me, I'm in pure 100% A plus NQ setup mode. I do not want to deviate from my plan that's been going on for the last, month or so, where I'm just sticking to just one thing only. Don't do dumb shit. Keep your money in your pocket. If you go into the weekend not executing a trade, then you go into the weekend not executing a trade. That's just kind of where we're at right now. This is a very choppy sideways environment. You don't want to get yourself chopped up in it. Look for manipulations like this, up, down, dragging, look for who's leading. If you're going to find those opportunities, you have to be very observant, watching to see what's going on and understanding the dynamics of it. That's really going to help you a whole lot, right? To see, are we going to get through here or not? Are there enough buyers here to say, yes, we'll go? Or is there a seller here that wants to sell it off? Or is there still going to be a battle that needs to be fought right here at VWAP before it goes in any direction, right? So my rules of staying flat for an hourly candle, stuck to that. Obviously, I didn't have a setup anyway, so it didn't really matter. But, sitting to that rule, once I started to see market getting thin, you could see price getting a bit choppy. I didn't remember totally about this 2-star event. I didn't think it was going to move us too much, but it moved us more than I anticipated. This 9 o'clock consumer sentiment number. I think these are all manipulated numbers anyway. So the manipulated number, manipulating algos, getting things going, it's good to be flat on that. Just in case it did what it did, right? I mean, like I said, we weren't entered into anything. We weren't looking for any sort of trade there, right at VWAP, right in the opening range. So it just is what it was. But just good to note, it was a good display of what I talk about with that, why I have that rule, and also why, how to kind of spot it on the tape and how to spot it in the time of sales and how to spot it on my little depth of market chart or whatever that is, that book map, that whatever you want to call it, this heat map thing. It's a surface DOM, they call it here. It's book map on book map. It's just the depth of the market in a visualization. Yeah, I don't have anything going right now, so you could see VWAP here sideways. Standard deviations are tight. It's a very tight. It's actually even getting tighter, right? This VWAP. This is more of a Friday summer trading month type price action. Lower volume, tighter range. I mentioned that Fridays tend to trend. It seemed like this whole year, most of the time Fridays were trending. They were picking a direction. We're not doing that today. We are staying very tight, staying very flat. There's maybe anticipation. Every weekend the last few weeks have been just news, 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 news. Geopolitical risk. All that fun stuff. So maybe the markets are anticipating something else happening this weekend, and who knows what if they're positioning for it. We are at lows. We're below that gap up that we had. I think we get back above 162. We start to rotate back up. Overnight high is 238. Yeah, maybe that 238 level gets whipped. We rotate down one more time, back down into the opening range, and then we rotate out. If that's what's going to happen, if we get to the overnight lows, maybe we get an opportunity. But still, like I said, we're just dancing around with this bottom end of this consolidation. If it wants to get through it and go down, then we'll get possibly involved at the overnight low. And if it doesn't give us the setup at the overnight low, then maybe the previous day low, or maybe just no trades. Just be ready to execute when the time comes, and you'll be just fine. I have nothing doing. If anybody has any questions about like the week, let me know. Or if you've executed and you're up money, hopefully you are. Hopefully maybe you got that short there from the 54.91, 54.92, 3/4. As you develop your strategy on it, Ray, you will learn 54.92 and down to there. That move is about per contract $1,000 ish. 54.92 down, 850 for that move. Straight to VWAP. Russell creeping back into the opening range. S&P's in the opening range. NASDAQ holding below the opening range. Scotty is up 396 times 2. Feels like it could be made more, but how? How are you making more in this? If you're up 396 times 2 on a day like today, it's pretty good. Honestly, Friday, I would avoid executing anything anymore until this market tells you a direction or tells you that it wants to do something, because right now it could, in theory, do this the rest of the day. It could stay this tight in this little bit of a range, right? So I noted that the opening range was a little wider than I would like it to be. And then after that happened, I said, does that wider range indicate an expansion, or does it indicate something about maybe want to staying inside today? And kind of everything's pointing to chop, consolidation, wait. Yes, it seems like there's opportunity to short or go long from the bottom. And if that's your thing, then that's your thing. But I don't see great opportunity here to say that you should be up any more or less than you are, because you did what you did and now that's all you have, right? If that makes sense. You could be up more if you wait. Like I said, if you're not going to lock out at that amount, if I was up anything today already, I would have been done. If I would have executed it all today, I would have been done. And even without these executions, if it gets to 10:30 and I still don't see movement, why am I going to force something in the last half hour of my session to give money back to the markets, right? There's no like directionality to this, right? So I don't know how well you're going to trail out. It's better to be just trail out, even if you are going to execute and hope that it picks a direction that time, right? If you're going to play the short off this level here and get even kind of quick and see if it rotates all the way down to that low, and then if it breaks that low, then you can start trailing and going. Opposite end, if it's going to play the break, trail it quick, hope that it moves, but you're just hoping and guessing, right? You're just speculating on some, as a day trader, realistically, there is a thing to say about that, right? Just being able to execute over and over and over again. But if it's away from your plan, you are doing dumb shit, right? There's just, at the end of the day, you're not giving the advantage to yourself. You're not setting yourself up for continued success by just executing just to execute, it's just not worth it in this kind of choppy sideways action. This is where you would even consider me sort of range bound type execution, right? I look for key levels and I try to fade the breakouts, right? I try to rotate off lows and highs and without picking tops or bottoms, right? But we have a hard time doing that in this kind of environment because you think, okay, now's the time it's going to break out. Now's the time it's going to break down. Now's the time it's going to do this. And then by the time you get to the point where it actually does the move, you have no bullets left. Or if you do, it's just very minimal and you're just going to try and get back what you lost instead of being able to capitalize on that movement when it does show its hand, right? So if we wanted to stay on here, waiting, be patient, be patient. Finally, wait to see something tell you that it's going to go a direction. You're at basically 50-50 on the tilt. NVIDIA is holding that 113.70 level, and it's just kind of lingering there. If that gives you a push down, maybe you got Delta, on the lows while we're on the highs. That's interesting to note, right? We're just kind of flat on the Delta. If you start to get a really big pop in Delta, maybe then price now breaks the high and rotates up. But you have to, we do have flows coming out of Russell as well. It's pushing to the downside of its opening range, but if it holds the opening range low and starts to rally out, does that push the NQ down? We have no real huge size on the books, a couple 30 lots that I see. Nothing really big on the book. So still just kind of could be indecision. This seemed manipulative, right? Like I mentioned, to push us the other direction, which ended up happening, right? With the rejection of that rotating down, gave you that opportunity at the high for the only trade I think you actually had was the S&P short from the blue line. Now that you're approaching it again, I don't think it'll reject immediately. You have to wait and see. If it breaks and holds now above the high of day, then you see, okay, we're breaking and holding above high day. Continuation could come in, which could drag us to the overnight highs in the NQ, right? The thing to note here that I mentioned is that we were on lows as we were on highs on Delta. So at any pop in Delta is now going to continue on through, which is good. Does it reject? I need to continue this out. You know what? I'll do this. Right. Range bound day. Still diverged. NVIDIA catching a little bit of a bottom. Could this gap and hold and go upside or not? I'm not forcing it. There's another just hold of that level, 60% long, 66% long on the tilt. Could indicate good buying. It's not super heavy on the tilt. Delta, still range bound. Still could be aggressive sellers coming in at the opening range high. This isn't a very aggressive break that I would want to see. Let me see if I got any size up here. 30, 30. 32. Yeah, it could squeeze up a little bit up into the 170s. Hopefully then it can get us into the overnight high. So now you're breaking out here. I would not hammer a short right this second, Ray. If you were looking at that level, I would be patient and wait, right? Because now it's the second touch of it. Looks like it's more of a I want to break out type move. But you do have overhead resistance here at 5504, 5500. It's a nice round number. And then obviously previous day highs up at that level there. But I don't know if we're going to get all the way up there or not. Now I'm going to have to anticipate this to not hold at the moment because we're holding above the opening range, the overnight high in the S&Ps. Maybe it'll drag us to that overnight high and I can get involved potentially for the first shot at a short through it, but it's got to set up. Can't just go and run, right? If we're just going to now stay and rotate back down again, then what am I going to do? This indicates to me a little bit of a continuation long right there. That 30-minute, 2 wicks on the bottom end of the channel, trying to hold above 154. There is that consolidation there. You can see here, maybe that 216 could act as a flush point. It was a good area there. 200. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Still flat, still chilling. And trying to fill that opening range breakout again. Didn't quite make it. Strong push. Is this another range move? I'm not in the business of playing in the middle, so don't do dumb shit. Gonna remind you, gonna remind myself, don't do dumb shit. I'm not gonna mess around until we get to our levels, right? Because if I don't ever touch any of those levels, it means that we've been purely an inside day. So there's no play for me, right? I'm not. That's just not a good market condition to work with. Now, if we get a good break above the overnight high up into that 260s, maybe even less, maybe 245 right there, 245, 246. That's an area for my short idea to come into play for that first immediate rejection, then rotate back. Do I think it squeezes through that high? It could. But then if it does that, it shouldn't ever come back. And this is now starting to do our little rising wedge that it's going to want to do here. Up into the 200 level. And maybe fail this opening range breakout. This is not a great condition to be trading in for my trades, right? It's nice failure of that opening range breakout, pushing right back into the opening range. Heavy coming in. However, we're still holding over this overnight high on S&Ps. Pretty much giving up. Broke, held. Does it break through this 54.90 and rotate again? If you sell through 54.90 three quarters, you could risk to the high of the candle and see what happens with it. Now it's failing that overnight high again there, Ray. Right into VWAP. This is the time where maybe it's if you were short through the level or even waited for that candle to close and enter that next open, that 54.91s again, you could be even now and then you're running this risk-free. If it comes back and stops you out, so be it. Let the S&Ps do its thing to the downside a bit because the NQ just cracked VWAP, trying to crack the opening range low. If it gives up the opening range low, then down the low as we go, and at least VWAP comes into play. So hopefully, if you were listening and you were trying to have an idea of how to short that one more time, there's your failed breakout. Rotation. Potential rotation now to overnight lows is more likely because you accumulated orders, you failed to break out, you got S&P, you got the NQ to do its thing again, get down through VWAP the other side, staying range bound, get yourself your targets down into that 54.79 at least, and then as you go, just trail candle by candle, let that thing give you as much money as it possibly can once you get to your 54.79 target area. Just very clean moves when you do it this way and you're able to kind of see it a little bit justifiably, You still listening, Ray? I don't know if you're on there or not. If you're not listening or if you're executing or if you're trailing, you're still safe. Now you're at your target, right? You have now went from 54.91 down to VWAP, and now you're trying to flush VWAP. Technically, you could get, if you have your target as VWAP, get above it. Get your stop at 54.81 quarters, and then see if this can flush even deeper. Get yourself all the way down to opening range low, and then start to, trail via structure. If you break down this low, you can trail it down through that low, continue to trail it down even further. As you see extra money from your target, you just continue to see it. You could technically, like I said, I think with that failed breakout, potentially that eventual overnight low idea does come into play, especially if this gives up. If this bottom of the opening range gives up, then you expect a flush to come in. I would be a little cautious on the overnight low failed break with this, because with the NQ, because we are heavy. We are in a downtrend. The ability for this market to just elevate or down through that level is possible, and I'm not going to be the one to try and on my Friday do something different according to my plan. If we wanted to do that, we could have done it on Wednesday, caught that short, and really did a really good job on it. Today, less likely. Ray, I hope you're short from that 91 again, because it really looks good. You should have even been able to have made your profit target on that 54.92, 54.91. Even if you got less than that, 54.91, you're up $700 on that trade right there. Plus your 150, you're up eight and change on the S&Ps. There's money to be made out there, folks. Money to be made. I am not executing. I'm not deviating from my strategy. I'm showing you the discipline of kind of keeping myself set. Yes, I might seem like I'm overly cautious, but at the end of the day, there's nothing here that's telling me that my strategy is to be executed, right? Except for in the S&Ps. And today I said I'm not going to execute away from my strategy, right? I'm not going to do that because I haven't been trading the S&Ps. So I'm not going to go flip over there right this second just to see if it's going to work on a Friday, right? It did make sense once and twice to go overnight high to VWAP. That's always my money play on the NQ. Here it worked out beautifully on the S&Ps. It respects its level much cleaner, right? Got to the overnight high, rejected, broke through the overnight high, failed it, and then continued on without any issue. If you trailed the VWAP, you're still in this trade. As we start to flush these lows, you can now easily probably either be safe at VWAP if you feel like that's a fine thing for you to secure. You could even trail down into these wicks and expect that it doesn't come back, because now that we're flushing through, approaching the opening range low, if you can get through the opening range low, then start to trail out to opening range low, because NVIDIA is approaching the gap fill now down to 112.23. It's at 112.76. So if NVIDIA can get the gap fill, then maybe the rotation back up from this happens. So I want to see if I can get NQ to get to the overnight low, which seems like it doesn't want to. It seems like there's a buyer here at 19,060. There's a wall there. Delta pressing. Avoiding this has helped me tremendously. It's helped me tremendously. I'm tremendous. It's huge. I do not want to chop up myself in this range here. Since NVIDIA got right down into that 112, didn't quite close the gap, so the gap is still valid, 112 quarters. So timing on this buy side, still not there. Some people are saying this is the worst kind of market, and they'd be right. Very much so. Me, I think it's tremendous. This is a tremendous market. This is huge. Wow. What a bad market. Sleepy Joe Biden created this market. This is horrendous. This is a horrendous trading day for anybody who looks to make money, unless you're taking that S&P short. The S&P short was a beautiful trade. Some would say it's the best trade of all time. Some play the deal maker right there. Could see the manipulation. I could see it. I told Kim Jong-un, hey, we can do this. We could short this market. We can get it. We can make money. Build your airports and gold diapers. All right, I'm done. When I switch to Trump Comedy Hour, that means it's time to do something different. Waiting for this to get to that overnight low. I need something to tell me to do anything other than just stare at this, right? Love to sit on my hands. Love to make sure that I'm not doing dumb shit. This is the epitome of don't do dumb shit for me. Realistically, this showed its hand here and here for the S&P to be the one to be able to execute on. I'm not going to do anything near VWAP, anything near opening range on the NQs. So for me, kind of calling out these two shorts, hopefully somebody caught them. Somebody was able to make some money on the day, even a little bit, right? I'm not going to deviate from my A+ strategy. I'm not going to deviate to just take these trades just to try and do it. Like I said, I'm going to be very, very picky, very, very, I'm going to keep my money. I want to make sure that I am doing everything that I can to limit my risk and my downside. So I feel like this should give us an opportunity at some point here in the session. But if I get all the way till, like I said, till about 10:30, if this continues on till 10:30, what are we doing? I think we give up here. I think we try at this point to get to that overnight low. Lower than 19. It's nice that that overnight low is at that key structure level of 19,000. So there will be interest there for long as well. So I think the first breakthrough, it manipulates. You can catch our strategy to the high side for at least a little bit, and then it will make a decision. So I will get to break even kind of quickly if we do get that opportunity. If we don't get the opportunity, then so be it, right? Give it to me. $112.25 and NVIDIA needs to get filled for this to start to bid up. And I kind of think that that's what this market's anticipating on the NQ. I feel like maybe this is, where we're trying to hold to get that long involved if the NVIDIA move happens off of 112.24. It does have that support here at 112.60-ish, 64, 61, 50. Just for the yesterday's aftermarket hours high. Pause on this. It's been a pretty long time on here. Ooh, hot. Oh yeah. Gross price action today. As anticipated on a Friday, some people just take off on Fridays. Really, this is not something I want to mess around with until we get out of this area. And if we don't ever touch any of these levels, then there's no reason for me to execute anything. If it does start to get to those levels, however, does that indicate that it wants to expand out at that time? Since we've accumulated so much here, does that want to pull back to that area? Does it want to pull back to VWAP? I don't know. I think maybe a clean move out if you are a breakout type person. But also at the same time, the amount of orders that were here, maybe it just wants to get out and come right back into it. You know, oh, I don't really want to go long. I don't really want to go short. I want to come back and go the other direction and try and make a different decision. Because here on the S&Ps, it did that, right? It went, I'm not coming out of the range. I'm going to go back down. And NQ is just even worse. Trying to curl out of here again. Relative weakness, relative strength. Again. Yeah, just kidding. Don't do dumb shit. The motto of this room is come alive in the form of a Friday low volume, low volatility, nothing to do kind of market. You can see that our levels are reactive, be it NQ and the S&P. It's in production. You're going to get it probably early next week. I also am waiting for my sample version as well. So we'll share in the don't do dumb shit mug display here. Let's check on it. You should get it early next week. As should mine. I'm just trying my best so I can't execute. Here we go. Maybe this gets heavy now. We finally cleaned up that gap in NVIDIA. So maybe, like I said, this is the decision point time. The gap got filled in NVIDIA. I want to see what's going on in Microsoft. I don't really care about Apple. It's been completely off and doing its own thing this whole year. I will look at it on its lows. NVIDIA now curling up from that level. Could this now be the good timing? AMD also cleaned up its gap. Google flushed its gap and now is rotating up. I think potentially I would love for this to get to that overnight low now, but NVIDIA having closed that gap could just now linger around. It does have to, could go to lows of the aftermarket hours. Yesterday's pre-market level low is 111.50. So in that area, could that drive us down here and then we get bid up from there? There's no reason that NVIDIA doesn't catch a bid. There is a wall of buyers here. Whatever they're doing, you can see heavy delta, ran into that wall of buyers, flattened out delta. There's a big bid here, 63 contracts at 44. It's not huge, but at 44 should draw us down at least. Alrighty. Get through this low, see if it flushes, then we can rotate the other way. I'm going to use the bathroom real quick while this sets up. I'll be right back. would you look at that? Nothing. More nothing. Could be a trap. That could be your long opportunity. If you're an NVIDIA trader, that's kind of like the buy area, which is that market cap in NVIDIA is just dragging these S&Ps and this NASDAQ around. But we haven't flushed in the same way that the NVIDIA, trying to close that gap was doing, right? We had a small gap here this morning. Friday's fun. This is real fun. Look at that gross price action. Would love to get one of our levels in play. It's funny because it looks like a super tight range, and it is. I mean, it's not expansive or anything like that, and we do need some rest after the kind of week we've had. However, there are 100 points. $2,000 move there, $2,000 move there. There's opportunity there. It's just not at where I can, at an execution point for me, right? These are pretty quick moves. 100-something ticks wide of opening range. Almost 200 ticks wide on opening range is very, very wide. It's getting price is speeding up a bit. You got 18 lots that got filled there at 87, I'm sorry. Somehow that manipulated up. Now it's rotating. Let's see if that's going to be a catalyst for some sort of movement out of this even tighter little range that we're in right there. $30 contracts at 96. The ability to sit on our hands and not do dumb shit, don't do dumb shit, don't do it, is going to keep you in this game long term. If there's 2 days this week that we don't execute, then we're just fine and we're happy about it. If we get to our levels, we're going to execute, right? I only have 4 minutes till I can kind of get involved in a trade, and if this just melts off in the next 4 minutes, sets up and runs, I can't take it, right? That's that hourly close that I have to wait for. I feel like we're probably going to hang around here anyway. In the next 4 minutes. If it does get down here before 10 o'clock, I would like it to hold below and kind of maybe give us that descending wedge pattern or something that we like to see on the failed break. And then we'll start to rotate back up at 10. That would be nice. That would be my ideal situation. While we're doing this, I'm going to kind of distract myself. I'll show you the performance stats for the account. This is how you stay nice up and to the right. We're average, bigger than we're losing, and we are at a 65% win rate, which is pretty good. I'll take that. I tend to creep up into the 70s, which is kind of just fine. A lot of these kind of just nice, clean executions. The first day, like I said, we broke our rules that day, but every other day we have been green. Any day we've been on stream this week, we've been green, or this month, I should say, we've been green every day. We are just doing that by sticking to our plan, right? If we only trade 3 days a week, we're making $4, $5, $6, $7, almost $1,000 per account per week. Just taking base hits, just executing, just sticking to our plan. and trying to just continue to end the week green, end the week green, end the week green. And as you do that, then your accounts will grow and grow and grow. We've built our $2,000 buffer, which is that minimum drawdown. Now we've made that minimum drawdown. So now if our account goes to zero, we lose all the money, which we should not do. We should just continue to build this up and to the right, and then take our payouts and try and leave this $2,000 buffer in here for our sanity, I should say. Waiting, watching the clock. It's 4 o'clock. It's got to stop. Tell me. Nvidia's still selling a little. We're still in that downtrend. Hasn't quite broken out above. It did fill the gap. You did get a wick down into that overnight pre-market after hours levels, that zone. Still has down to 1150 for that support from pre-market yesterday, and then we wicked down below and rotated back off that same level during market hours yesterday before the big flush. So if we do get down to that 111.50, maybe that drives us to the overnight low. Maybe that gets us our setup to come into play, and then we can pop out. Like I said, I only can trade after the hour opens. Now it's 5 minutes to the hour. We are nowhere near any zone for me. We could just dump down right now, and that's it. But it seems very, very indecisive. And now people are just kind of, it seems like market participants are just getting out of the market, right? Super, super low volume. We're in no man's land, right dead center. You can see the volume here just off the table, low. No real manipulation going on. Delta is completely flat. No large orders on the books. I don't see anything right now on the level 2s. Creeping up now. A little tick up in Delta. Point of control there at 19,090 basically. Has held this low 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times now. Russell rolling over, looking to make new lows on the day. Hasn't quite made it there yet. S&P still holding over the opening range high. So relative strength, relative weakness here. Nvidia rotating back up. Still, like I said, we don't have any indication of direction. We are totally flat. Just staying out of this market, staying safe, keeping our money in our pockets, just live streaming, keeping you guys accountable for what's going on. I appreciate the new subscribers. If you're new here, we are just in the business of trying to keep each other accountable, right? I'm not here to give you, I'm not the best signal service in the world. I'm not looking to tell you what to do, when to do it. I just give you good ideas on levels, zones, how I'm seeing the market, what I see moving forward in the day, what I see for the week. Every week I do post a weekly write-up that gives you a pretty good indication of how I anticipate price action to go for the week based on the news events, based on data that we may have looking forward, provide some levels, and then allow you to make your own decisions. If you are here on YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We are on every day that we possibly can, 8:30 in the morning till 11 Central, free here on Tradecaster and on YouTube currently. We, right now, like I said, have 0 executions across any of the funded accounts, right? Flat, flat, flat. You can see no realized P&Ls there, no realized P&Ls there, no realized P&Ls there, no executions. We've been sitting here kind of just talking about why certain things are going to go down, how we can avoid executing by just sticking to our key levels, and then talking through why this manipulation here was a good reason to go short on the S&Ps. And then again, same deal, watching it happen twice in real time. It's something that I would take maybe early in the week, or maybe when I have a bigger buffer in the account. But right now, like I said, I'm sticking to my A+ setups, my go-to strategy right now is still the NQ, still working through the NASDAQ. I do use the S&P levels to help make decisions here. And just like I did today, I gave you that little bit of a call out on both of those shorts, which you could have made pretty good executions on both of those shorts there if you were to be inclined to do so, if that stuck to your strategy. But I kind of anticipated that pullback to VWAP twice, just kind of based on the way NQ is reacting, based on the way NVIDIA was still selling off. Now that NVIDIA's closed that gap, we are rotating back higher. The top end of the gap is 113.43. We'll call it 113.50 for a nice round number. And I think now potentially if you accept above that, you might squeeze the NVIDIA back up, maybe a little pop. It doesn't have to go all the way up, but maybe back to yesterday's open, which is 114.60. So that could now drive the NASDAQ back up healthily through and catch up to the NVIDIA, to the S&Ps, and kind of do that. If you're on team Don't Do Dumb Shit, click the link that's pinned to the top of the chat. It is going to give you the swag shop. The top set of shirts and mugs right there is the Don't Do Dumb Shit line that I released a couple days ago, since the chat has always been requesting it. It's in there. We will do that here. This is our weekly market analysis, kind of talking through everything. I will do this again every week. So if you are interested in it, go over to the link in the bio in the chat, and then you'll be able to pull that up. You can see last week's stuff. You can see the Don't Do Dumb Shit line is now available. You could always click over to the swag shop, grab yourself some coffee to fill up that mug, and also grab yourself a shirt. Use code PolicingPips. You'll get yourself 15% off. As always, I'm not executing anything. This is actually really considering that as a long. You look at those three big long wicks on 30-minute wick, 30-minute wick, 30-minute wick. You have manipulation there. If you rotate back up over it, is that a trap? Is that going to trap longs, or are we accumulating to break out and continue on through up into yesterday's highs? I don't think so. It seems very, very unlikely with the way price is acting right now and the way the volume is acting, right? It's 10 o'clock now. I can now look to entry. That 5-minute rule has come and gone, and no setup was available anyway, so it doesn't really matter. 1 minute opening range. I do not think that this is the timing for this short yet. It's there. You're on the mark. You're at the level. If we stay rotational, then that's a good spot for it. But I don't think so. Still no, I have 1 more hour left in stream here. What's going to tell me that this is going to do anything other than stay range bound? We have not even come close to overnight highs, overnight lows, even the overnight high that was made prior to that news candle, right? We have just completely went sideways, lost all of our volume. Everything here has just showed us its hand as to what kind of day it's going to be. It showed it pretty early, right? I said, take a step back. We're in the middle of the range. Don't execute. Much of what I do is failed breakouts and mean reversion. So if I'm at the mean, I can't revert back to it because I'm already there, right? So that's what the VWAP is for the most part. It's the mean. It's the average of the volume average weighted price, right? It's the most executed price, and, with the volume calculation as well, right? So, understand that it's not part of my strategy, so I'm not going to execute here. If it's part of your strategy to execute around VWAP, then maybe you're a longer term, positional trader, day trader here that maybe wanting to position yourself as much as you can below the VWAP to run it to the highs, or maybe you're looking for shorts off of VWAP. I don't know what you're trying to do. I don't have that strategy available. I just try and call out what I see when I see it, and then I move forward from there. If we get down below here again, another rejection here again of that overnight high on the S&Ps, Do I trust that this is going to be a true rejection this time? I'm not sure. It looks very, it hasn't closed here. It's kind of holding that level a little bit. It's dancing around. So there is a decision to be made here. NVIDIA looking like it's creeping right up to that 113.50 area. So maybe that's another reason for it to pop down a little. Unless it pops through the 113.50, then you get a little squeeze push. And then we'll watch to see if high up day comes in. You saw it happen here. It happened here. Will it happen here again? You know, third time through, maybe a true break or not, and rotate right back down again. But in NQ still showing a little bit of strength. It's dead center of the opening range. So, you know, it's a little relatively strong compared to where it was before, right? If it was up here and failing, then maybe we'd have that conviction that this spot is now the time to sell. If you hold below here, there's a chance that it does rotate, but it's just kind of all speculation. Is it, you know, if you took it once or twice, would you take it the third time? Is the third touch for you the time you feel that real true breakouts happen? Potentially that's where that happens, but you can see it's rotating. Maybe if this candle closes, it gives you the idea that you can risk to the high and rotate back down to VWAP again. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not playing it. That's not me. We're not good. Deck still's got nothing. I still got nothing. We're just not going to hammer into things. That's how you stay in this game long term. This is how you develop consistency. It's how you build your account up and to the right, and you stick with your plan. Because if you don't, yeah, it may work once, it may work twice, it may work 5, 10 times. But the one time it doesn't work, it's going to put you into full-on panic. You know, that's when you get into that FOMO. That's when you get into tilt. That's when you get to the burned accounts, is because you deviate from your plan, you do dumb shit, and you try and pick tops and bottoms, or you try to pick breakouts. Really what happens in this kind of market is everybody goes, oh, I'm going to play the breakout above this time, and it fails. And now I'm going to play the short, it's going to go this time, and it fails. And then the time that you're like, all right, fine, I'm going to go long, it goes short through. Like it just knows how to time it, where everybody's like, I'm going to give up on this one, I'm going to give up on this one. And it just does the opposite, because it's just history, right? It just understands the dynamics of how many times will it take to make that person give up on their idea for it to go the other way. (10:06 a.m. here Central Time. I stream live every day, 8:30 till 11 Central Time. I'm here right now with no opportunities available for me. I'm not looking to take anything until we get to our overnight high or our overnight low, and then I will watch to see if I get any sort of manipulation to get myself triggered into fading those breakouts. I would like a failed breakout kind of on a day like today, but this is so much accumulation that if it does go in a direction, will it continue? Or is the volume going to just continue to dissipate, and then we rotate right back down into the mean and kind of close on a nothing burger kind of day? This is the kind of pattern I like to look for at my key levels. So if this does give up and start to rotate through VWAP, maybe S&P's follows. There you go. Another rejection of that level. So these right here, another is a lower conviction, smaller candle, smaller arrow for the lower conviction short. But you can see how much this level is reactive. Even if it doesn't work for the short this third time around, it's a good indication for you to understand why I use the overnight levels, why I use the previous day levels, and then understand that there are decisions that need to be made around these levels every single day. And that's why I watch them, right? Even if this breaks out now, at least you know, okay, now that's the reason why this broke out, is because we've come to this same level over and over and over again. We've kind of accumulated. Now we're looking to try and break it, right? These people that are trying to go long gave up. Now they're going to try and go short. Now maybe it's going to squeeze it long. Understand what they're trying to do to the price in order to keep yourself sane, keep yourself involved in the price action the way you want to be involved, and not being manipulated by a little trickery. Delete this. And for those of you who have not been around, if this is your first time here, this blue line did not appear here after the market opened. This is the pre-market overnight high that I mark up every day. Pre-market, you can go back to the beginning of the stream and see that it was there. It's not like, oh, I saw the reaction here, I put it in. But like, these are predetermined levels for me that always seem to keep, day in and day out. They are repeatable, and you're able to kind of build yourself a strategy around them, whether it be the same one as me or not. If you're a breakout trader, then maybe you play the breakouts. For me, I'm a failed breakout mean reversion type trader, so I like to rotate off of overnight highs and lows, depending on the trend of the market. Fading the overnight high right now seems more conducive to fading the overnight low, because a lot of the breaks of the overnight lows have given you follow through over the last few days. So maybe I'm a little bit more patient on the breakdown of the overnight low failure, except for today, because we never got there. But at the same time, if we get to this overnight low, it is a key psychological 19,000 level. So potentially there will be some like whippy action through it, then a quick failure because people will want to buy up that 19,000. So that's what I think about that. Overall, it's a good day to be patient. If you have no trade opportunity, if something isn't lining up to what you're seeing and you're kind of just waiting here for something to tell you what to do, maybe just get off the screens. It is Friday. Go enjoy the weekend. Don't go into the weekend attempting to force something in and lose money and then get to a point where you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that because, why did I do that? I did that just because I wanted to click the button. I thought maybe I could make money instead of being confident in your setup and, executing according to an appropriate strategy. That's really all I could, give you as far as advice is stick to your strategy. Don't do dumb shit. This is not something that you really want to be trading in unless you're a pure, you execute a lot on a day. Maybe instead of trading the NQ, you switched over to the S&Ps and understood the range in the NQ is helping give you decisions on the S&Ps, right? We saw it here, and we're seeing it now again, where if this NQ rolls over, the likelihood of this S&P breaking out is less likely, although it is more of an accumulation here than it was in the previous two times. This was a really great failed breakout, which made that short clean and quick. This one was really good as well because it just showed its hand in the NQ first, which dragged us down. And then now this one as well, running into that, we're dead center of the opening range. We have literally gone absolutely nowhere on the day. So for the S&Ps to be a little bit more expansive, holding above the NQ, if this starts to push up higher, then I maybe wouldn't trust this short yet. But I mean, it's up to you. If you already took once, twice, three times, and you're already at break even on this, then it's just a free trade. You're at even at 54.92. If you get stopped out at even, cool. If you lose a little bit, cool, because you made, what? If you took both of these and didn't, took full take profits on them at VWAP twice, you're up, over 1,000. If you want to risk $200 to see if it'll play out a third time, that's cool. It's not a terrible idea. Or lock out after that second one and walk away knowing that this environment is a shitty environment. Figure out what works for your mentality. Figure out what you're thinking is tell you what the market's thinking, right? All these things need to come into play every day that you trade. I don't want to execute in the middle. I don't want to be playing in this. This is how I get myself in trouble because I'll think, I'm going to fade the top and it's going to break out at that point. Or I'm going to, play the breakout because it looks like it's going to break out and then you get trapped in short. It goes. The markets can do this all day. And then at the, last hour, it'll rip. So, or it'll still just do nothing, right? There's just not a ton of information. There's that good help from the NQ to your S&P short. Once again, third time's the charm. You basically could have been at break even and still have taken no risk if you shorted that little wedge break that Ray was waiting for. He was waiting for this little wedge type thing to happen. If you got that kind of, mentality here, wedging at a key level, slowing down on the NQs, getting the rotation through your level. You could short right through the 92. You could have been at break even, as you approached here, and you never really would have got tacked out if you, went a little couple ticks later, because you should be profited on the 2 other times prior, right? This is more of like the third time, let it go and see if it'll run to the downside. Otherwise, if you get stopped out at even, it was just a free trade. You took it, you executed according to your plan, and you rotated out. But to me, I think this one's less likely to play out than the other 2. This one I was convicted on. This one I was convicted on. This one I'm less convinced. If you are a coffee drinker, if you want to start, head over to daytradingcoffeeco.com. It's coffee for traders, by traders. Everything is roasted freshly on order, so you will always get fresh coffee. None of that store-bought sitting on the shelves. You don't know when it was roasted. Coffee does lose its appeal after a while on the shelves. So we like to get that fresh coffee to you, delivered to your door. You order it, it gets roasted, gets shipped out very quickly, as you can. And we're trying to give back to traders, right? We're developing a funding fund. So lots of things that we're trying to do to build the community over there. If you like it, let us know. Leave us some reviews on Google. Check out our Google reviews. Nothing but satisfied customers. Anything that ever happens that could possibly be an issue, we always try to make it right. So, just trying to grow this small little coffee company, one trader at a time, fueling your journey. So hopefully you like it. I know Scott likes it. I know a few other people in the chat have bought it and gave it a shot. So hopefully you will too. You could always use code policing pips. The link is in the chat. Check out the Don't Do Dumb Shit line that we just released while we try to keep ourselves sane and not executing in the middle of this nonsense. Right, that's all I'm trying not to do. I would love to trap shorts below the overnight low, below 19,000, right? Give me something here, and then I could take a long off of it and ride into the sunset on Friday. .3M stock is having its best day ever. What does 3M look like? Oop. It is there. I saw it. I seen it. .3M open. There's your 3M having its best day ever. Look at that chart. 3M must have had great earnings. Surprise, surprise of 164. Wow. They reported almost a couple hundred million more than expected. They have rallied since open. 3M crushing it. If anybody traded that, good on you. From 110 to 120, up $10. Yeah, I was talking about it, Ray. I think that this was a less probable. It is a great pattern to watch. That's what I like to see. I do love this pattern right here. I like it here, and I like it here. I just didn't think it was going to be as clean as these other moves, and clearly it's not. Maybe it's healthier with the pullbacks and the push down, but this is something I want these moves. These are the kind of trades I like, those quick breakdowns. I could trail them nice and cleanly. Short side, really good. Usually this kind of pattern indicates a less of a follow through. Just a little bit. Otherwise, like I said, that third time through, if you took it the first and second time, I could, see the trailing and the really tight and allowing it, well, not tight, allowing this S&P trade to breathe a little bit down to VWAP, having a good target. This third one is less of a convicted move for me. You could get to break even quick. And then if you really want to just let this thing go for the rest of the, session or wherever you want to start to trail it to, this is the one where I was less convinced that the smoothness will happen. However, if it does go, you should not get stopped out at even, and it should continue down and it give you that healthy, move to the downside. And you've already taken two. So, you're up on the day. This is a free trade. You kind of just let this one be your moneymaker and almost allow it to just do what it wants to do. That's great. Fantastic coffee. A lot of people are saying it's the best coffee. I tried it, said, wow, that's good coffee. It's flowing up from the southern borders. The coffee, it's Colombian, it's Ecuadorian, it's Nicaraguan, it's Ethiopian. Coffee doesn't grow in America. Sad, sad day. We don't have as much American coffee as we used to. That's good. Give me something to do. I want to make money today, but I don't want to make money in a risk that has no ability to be managed. If I win in this chop, I'm setting up bad habits. I'm doing dumb shit. And that's me recognizing where I do dumb shit. It's in this type of price action. This is where most people get chopped up. This is where a lot of people say, I'm going to burn my account today, because they get so frustrated by the tops and the bottoms. And then when they start to pick the top to go lower, or they say, oh, I'm going to play the breakout this time, and then they switch, and then they switch, and they switch, and they switch, and then they either feed themselves out. The best case scenario is a break even type day, or slightly green because you're just over executing, because you're seeing this action. This is something I want you to recognize early, like we did. We recognized it really early, stating that we had an expansive 1 minute opening range dead center between overnight high and overnight low. And we are at key structure levels, but kind of need to make a decision. But also at the same time, we've moved so far during the day. There's nothing. You had a great day to have a dentist appointment, because this is garbage price action. We did not execute any trades. I know a couple people did execute against my best wishes, except for I told the chat here about these three opportunities as they were occurring. If you go and rewind the stream, you'll notice that I call out these three here, the shorts on the S&P as opposed to the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq doesn't have good opportunity right now. The S&P's clearly has three good shorts. I said the third one is lower conviction. I would avoid it as much as possible. If you already took these two, you probably locked out on the day. If you didn't, walk away up quite a bit. If you trailed those wrong or whatever, you could have been in this and risk free, and then allowing this to now be your moneymaker. But everything on the NQ, this is garbage. There's nothing here. It's just you had a great day to have a dentist appointment. So well done on. So what you did a really good job scheduling your dentist appointment. I think that was perfectly timed. If you're ever going to do anything and you have to do it during trading days, do it on Fridays. Fridays can be a bad day a lot of times, right? If you're up on the week, you give some back, you feel crappy. You're down on the week, you go down more, you feel even worse. You go into the weekend kind of defeated, right? As long as you execute towards your plan, you don't do dumb shit, you stick to your ideas here. We don't, I'm not at any of my levels. I'm not executing. As long as I can sit here, watch the charts all day and not execute, cool. But if you're going to have to schedule some stuff, do it on a Friday in the summer. This is normal summer Friday markets, right? We've had some really good moves over this week and over the last 2 weeks where it's not a normal summer months. Obviously, we're in election season. We've had some volatility thrown into the markets with the geopolitical risk. right? Obviously presidential uncertainty, lots of weird things going on, deep state manipulation, whatever you call it, all that fun stuff. You kind of expected a day like this to come in at some point because I think markets are kind of just, they need a second to gather their thoughts after pushing up so high to unreasonable highs in, not so favorable market conditions. And then at the same time, now pulling that all the way back and recovering that whole entire move and now thinking, okay, from here, where do we go? We need to make decisions. We can consolidate here all the way to the election. Realistically, I don't think we will. I'm not saying this tight little range. It's obviously going to come out of it and in it. The broader range right now is going to be like 19,250 all the way down to 18,970. Like it's not like a very tight range, but there's still the thought that it could do that until election time or until something else comes along that say, oh, let's move it this way and we'll run it the other way, right? So as day traders, yes, we're not super concerned day to day on macroeconomic events, but if you keep those macro events in your head, at least in the background, just understanding kind of what the broader theme of the market is, it can give you a good direction for the day-to-day trading, and you can just at least understand when you're going to get something like today or even Thursday or Wednesday when we didn't end up getting really great opportunities because we had good follow through, good breakouts. And like I said, I'm more of a range, not a range person, but I'm playing failed breakouts. I'm playing mean reversions. I'm doing those things. And those days, even though they're expansionary, there's big moves. Those are the days for the breakout traders. And you got to just kind of understand what type of trader you are and what market conditions are going to work well for you as opposed to other people. We have 5 minutes here until the euro close. Volume has been all but nothing this entire time. We are just kind of lingering here in this super tight range. S&Ps has consistently held higher over the VWAP and flirting with this overnight high more than the NQ. NQ is just lingering right dead center of opening range and is held below VWAP more often than it has been above. So we're kind of just in a holding pattern. If I get an opportunity before 11, I'll take it, but it doesn't appear that that's going to show its hand today. And if I'm flat and I lock out myself, after the stream is done, then I'm just going to accept that today wasn't a good day for my trades. But if it gets to my levels and then I have a chance to, an opportunity to execute on them, and I'll make some money on it and I'll move on. But right, like avoiding this is keeping money in my pocket. And in the past, this is a kind of day that would get me chopped up. These are the kinds of days that I would lose accounts or max drawdown or try to, or I would go break even like, but it would be such an emotional, stressful day. I'm stress free today. I don't have any desire to execute in that. I have 3 accounts funded currently. I have 2 that I'm copying, so it's a leader plus 1. I copy 2 50Ks, and I have 1 100K that I do trade separately. So I have 3 currently. I've paused on the combines because I'm focused on actually trading the XFAs, and it's difficult for me to pass a combine while I'm focusing on the XFAs because you can't copy trade them from the XFA to the combine. And I want to still stick to my own good strategy, which is during these market hours, right? So for me to add 2 more combines that I'm going to trade, first off, if it's a different account size, you won't be able to copy it. So that's one reason. But another reason is I like to, so for these 50Ks, I want to execute according to my strategy. I mean, they force it out, so you really can't copy trade it, right? Even if that was the case, even if I could, if I get another 50K, I will copy that 3 times, and the 100K, I'll copy another 100K to it. I really want to have 2 separate so I can run risk a little bit, better. I can mitigate if I make good money across 2, I'm still happy copying across 2, and then I can switch, and I'll still have that 100K if I have another opportunity I can execute later. If I have drawdown across two, I can lock that out and still make money on the day in my 100K, if that makes sense. Not drawing all three down the same amount all day, right? So you kind of spread your risk out a little bit. My plan is to get at least one more 100K, and then I'm probably going to just stick with another 50K. So do 3 50Ks and 200Ks. To me, it doesn't really matter. Once you build the buffer, the account size, it's all relative to how fast you can kind of, once you do it like how I'm doing it, and you get to the point where you can kind of just pass these combines pretty quickly by leveraging up and kind of allowing yourself to burn a few to make one, because the risk to reward to me is worth it. If you've never passed one before, I don't recommend doing that, because it's just not developing good habits, right? You're not going to get to the point where you have an account where you can pull money from, where you could eventually use the money from these payouts to buy new combines and stuff like that. That's kind of how it works for somebody that's done. I know how to pass the combine. I don't have the stress to pass the combine because I've done it so many times that's not the goal anymore, right? The goal isn't to pass the combine. It's to maximize my funding. And I do believe that even across 3 accounts, they only used to allow you to have 3 accounts at a time. So right now I'm at the old limit of how many fundeds you could have. But realistically, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're trading right, if you're developing it and you're building up, obviously I would love to have 5 accounts copied at $2,000 each, right? That's phenomenal, right? I would be very happy with that, the opportunity to take payouts from that. But eventually, if I do everything the way I want to do it and doing it correctly, yes, my profits may be a little smaller, with the copying, but I'm still sticking to my plans. I'm still, developing good habits, and then those other accounts will come. But if I get to the profit points that I want to get to, they're going to move those profits over to a live funded account anyway, because they can see it's consistent. They can see it's profitable. They can see all that. And then you have to redo, your XFAs again, get more XFAs on top of your live account. And, it's just kind of a little bit of a game that you got to play with them. So, until that point happens, I'm going to try and maximize my payouts from these 3, build my buffer up as big as I can. With these 2, the leader +1, we're up over 2,000 on each of them. So I've built that buffer that I wanted to build, and now everything over that can be the payout amount until I decide to increase the buffer again. It's just kind of a strategy that you'll have to adapt for yourself as you do get funded. Really, I like kind of how we're set up currently, and the patience that we're showing, the discipline, the don't do dumb shit mentality is really kind of sticking with me. I was talking to my buddy Ray. He's in the chat here. I was telling him that there's been points where I've just not felt quite ready to take the next step, but there was something about recently where I've changed my mental state and allowed myself to be successful, if that makes sense. Allowing yourself to be successful and eliminating some of the pressures of, putting anything besides the process forward is going to get you into trouble. So you're going to understand that as you move forward in your journey, because this is such a difficult thing to do. It's such a simple thing, right? Everything about trading is very, very simple. You can click a button, it goes up, it goes down. You can click a button, you can make money. But the amount of ways to lose money is so great, and the amount of ways to win money is so great that you overcomplicate things. A lot of times that's why you see a lot of new people get really good really quick and then start to lose really, they get like that false confidence. They build up into that false confidence because they're like, oh, I see money, I'm making money. They're not overcomplicating things. They're keeping it very simple. So they're making money in the beginning because they're like, oh, buy the bottom, sell the top, great. And then they start to get overcomplicated. They start to watch videos. They start to overdo it with their strategies, their risk management. There's mistakes that you need to make along the way as a brand new trader. So making money, then losing some, then understanding stop losses, understanding risk management, all that fun stuff. You need to personally go through those things. Otherwise, your mindset's never going to understand what the detriment of breaking those rules are, right? So in one way, it's like you got to kind of pay the tuition, do it in the prop firms, do it where you don't make, you get to within $100 of that funded account and you burn it. Like I said, I'm not going to lie to you. I've done all the stupid shit, and I continue to do dumb shit. And I feel like I got to a point recently where now it's kind of just turning that mentality into process, just worried about the process. Don't do dumb shit. Understand that my strategy works. I'm going to take losses. I'm going to have losing days. It's okay. Never allow those max losing days to happen, right? Don't let Top Step be the one to stop you out. Don't let your funded account be the one to stop you out. What is my strategy? My strategy in substance is very simple. You can see on the board here, I have overnight highs, overnight lows, previous day high, previous day lows. I play failed breakouts and attempt to rotate to the mean. So I have a VWAP here. I play failed break of an overnight high or an overnight low, and I will wait to see if I get confirmation, and then I will try to rotate it back, scalp, whatever. I usually like to target VWAP, and then if I approach VWAP, depending on how price moves, I trail my stop to VWAP and try to rotate fully to the other end. Those are very unlikely days. Those are less probable days, the full rotation, overnight high to overnight low or opposite. However, they do happen, and if I trail correctly, I can catch that move. But most of the time, I'm just looking for quick base hits on failed breakouts. So market tends to trend. Tends to consolidate 70%, 80% time. So my strategy works right around that percentage of the time, right? If it's not going to be a trend day, the breakouts are going to fail, and I'm going to be able to capitalize on those moves. I'm not trying to pick bottoms or tops. I'm just trying to use my levels to my advantage. There are some extra little layers to my strategy, but if you were to just ask me a quick one sentence, what is your strategy? It is failed breakout, mean reversion. That's really as simple as it gets there. Does that make sense? JKDHML1 robot name. The way I said it, it's obviously not a robot name. I apologize if that's offensive. Yeah, so Carlos says his dumb shit was blowing an account within seconds. Last NFP got liquidated at 0. Yeah, that's going to do it. If you can do our normal mantra here is don't do dumb shit, right? Trading non-farm with a tiny account like some of these prop firms, right? Like you think of this as, a 50K account, 100K account. You got to stop thinking that way. These are $2,000 drawdown, $3,000 drawdown, all these things. So when you see let me get to this question first, and I'll go back to that thought that I had. So when you see the fake breakouts on the ES, why didn't you enter all of those? Would have been home runs today. Are you waiting for the NQ to do the same? How does the ES and NQ correlation work? So the reason I didn't take these is because I just haven't been trading the S&Ps. I kind of said it as I was leading into it while you were at the dentist. I'm not going to, especially on a Friday, I'm not going to deviate from my normal strategy of trading the NQ. I have a very good understanding of manipulations and seeing when price on the NASDAQ wants to do a bit more. And I can make good trades in the NQ, right? So as you've seen time and time again, like if I stick to my strategy in the NASDAQ, it works very well. I called these out for those of you who do like to trade the S&Ps. I started to talk about them because of my buddy Ray here. He's in the chat. I don't know if he's still in or out or whatever, but he was planning on trading the S&P today. So I started to call these levels out a little bit more. I like to use them correlated for if I get to these levels in the S&Ps, I make executions in the NASDAQ. It works both ways, right? If you can determine which one is the leader for the day, right? They include many of the same names. The NASDAQ is the NASDAQ 100, right? It's the 100 largest names. It's heavy tech weighted, right? The S&P 500 is the 500 top stocks, right? And it's more thick, it's more liquid. It has more reaction right at levels. Bigger players kind of mess around. The volume in the S&P is way greater than the volume in the NASDAQ. So you can kind of really work these levels really well. It's just that it moves a lot slower. The manipulations aren't quite there that I like to use. And I just kind of built a good relationship with NASDAQ. And I didn't want to, the reason I didn't take the failed breakouts today here is, like I said, I'm up for the week. I'm not, my don't do dumb shit thing for today was do not deviate from the plan at all this week, right? If I had my buffer a little bit bigger, if I decided that, maybe I'm going to see that this is working more often than the NASDAQ, then I'm going to switch over to that. Yes, there's opportunities in each market. And I saw that coming 3 times. I didn't trust this third time for anybody to take. I just mentioned it. It could be a risk-free move as you trail it. You could do it, but it works on both markets. You just have to understand the behaviors are slightly different on the S&Ps as opposed to the NASDAQ, right? Because the S&Ps are pretty much like, if it breaches the level, it's going to go. And if it comes back to it, it's either going to respect it and go right away, or if it fails it, it should go immediately. So S&Ps tends to turn more immediately, less manipulation. And then this one was timed better because we were able to see that on the NASDAQ being the leader to the downside. These two were really good trades, could have made nice moves, like you said, Scrooge. However, like I said, for myself, I am not deviating from my personal strategy, and my plan is to just execute on the NQ at the moment, just solely based on that it's just working for me right now. And why am I going to deviate from something that's working to take chances on a Friday, on a week where I'm up about $1,000 per account, right? So, I'm not like looking to give much of that back on a test, if you know what I mean, right? This could have easily just been a break retest run. I think it was confirmed by the NASDAQ, and it's just going to build my confidence in it when the time comes, when I decide, hey, I want to add the S&P back into my playbook, then I'll take it, right? But until that time comes, I'm not going to just execute on it just to execute, if that makes any sense, Scrooge, in case you were wondering. If you're going to trade back to Carlos's dumb shit that he's done, trading non-farm on these accounts or any account in general, if you're going to do those news type events, you have to have a very specific strategy. If you're going to play them, like trade smaller, really size down, limit your risk, because especially if you're on your own brokerage account, or if you start and get to a live funded account, like at some point you're going to get crazy slippage on those non-farm events, and you could get slipped in, right, on that whip, that first algo move, slipped in. Maybe you wanted to get in at 171, it slips you all the way up to 200 and then immediately sells off, and then you have such a crappy entry, and then it stops you out quicker, and your idea may have been right, but you're not allowing the price action to be organic. Everything that happens immediately after news is very algo. There's not actual players that are like in there clicking buttons, right? It's all computers doing it, and you're not going to beat the computers. You might get lucky if you have there are very specific strategies that work around news events. And if you have one of those strategies, you can leverage it very well. But I know it can get you into a lot of trouble if that's not your normal day-to-day, I trade news type, event strategy idea, right? So you could see the entire trading session today, I have 0 opportunities for myself. If I was going to trade the S&P, like Scrooge was mentioning, I could have made some money on these trades, and in the future maybe I will. But right now, I'm trying to stick to that serious discipline of what is my setup, what am I trading on a day-to-day basis, how do I make my money consistently, and it's over here on the NASDAQ at the moment. Right now, the opportunity is not there. It was there on the S&P, right? I'm not going to lie to you. I called them out. I told you, and then it played out pretty nicely. So it's not like I didn't see it coming. It's just that I wasn't going to deviate, especially on a Friday, right? Fridays tend to be days where I just don't want to do something that's a little bit out of the realm of the normal routine, where I'm going to go into the weekend thinking, why did I switch to the S&P? Like, what was I thinking? Like, I didn't need to do that. I don't want to go into the weekend thinking that way. I want to, even if I execute a trade at any point, moving forward today, if it's on the NASDAQ and it, let's say we wick the overnight high right now, we rotate down and I get stopped out and it, whatever happens to it, at least I executed according to my plan. I understand my strategy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. if I recognized it and it worked and I got, filled and made money on it, I could feel good about going into the weekend saying I waited the entire day, I got my setup, I executed on it, and I walked away. If I win money or lose money, it doesn't matter. It's because I stuck to my strategy, I stuck to my plan, and then I can go into the weekend knowing that I just didn't give. Yeah, there's still nothing. I didn't give anything back for the weekend, and I didn't do anything that was off the plan, right? The plan is the plan, and you gotta just stick to it. And the mantra of don't do dumb shit, as you can see here, don't do dumb shit. Oh yeah, there's nothing from the market. There's nothing. That's what I meant to say for you. I was kind of like answering somebody else's question and then also answering your question in the middle. So this is the mantra today. Don't do dumb shit. Comes in white, gray, dark gray, black. And then we got the mug to go along with it. Don't do dumb shit mug. Scott's is in production. Mine's in production. If you want it, grab it while it's hot. Grab it while it's hot. If you pass an account, treat yourself. We also have the subtle don't do dumb shit inspirational bull that I brought out. He is professionally dressed, telling you I thought it was going to be red too, but I kind of just stuck with just simplicity. I could always just make new ones and more as I go, but kind of got the idea out there. And the fact that you don't do dumb shit keeps you green is why I kept it green. I wanted to stay green. I want to make money. I want to be positive. I want to do everything the right way. I thought that same thing. I started out red, and then I was like, this doesn't work. I want to be positive. I want to be green. I want to be doing things that way. And if I don't do dumb shit and I stick to my plan, then the green comes. So that's where I'm at. Let's see. Maybe we get an opportunity here if we can squeeze through the highs and we can get a failed breakout. Maybe I'll stay on a little bit past 11 just to see if it's going to come. If we fail again and rotate off of 200, or if we don't quite make it there, or if it looks like it's going to break out and squeeze, and I'm going to just not play along in that game because this could just be a full accumulation. Now it's just going to continue to trend on up. You'll see me lock out before I get off stream. So I am sticking to my plans. I'm not doing dumb shit. I'm not going to execute late in the day. All in all, everything is good. Life's good. Next week, I believe. So, Scott, where are you at on that combine? Are you positive? You reset on the 1st. That's still a week away. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do it. If you're positive on the account and you have a week left and you still have most of your drawdown left, don't do that, please. Yeah, that is dumb shit. I was going to say it, but it potentially could not be dumb shit when you're in my shoes, or if you've passed a combine, or if you're going to, like, if you would have said, oh, tomorrow's my reset day or rebuild day, and I'm down, or I'm up, but my drawdown is like, say you made already 3K on the 100K and you've drawn down 2 and you only have 1,000 left and you rebuild tomorrow, what's stopping you from trying to be aggressive on that combine today? Because technically, starting with a fresh slate, you're going to get rebuild anyway. Might as well start with a fresh slate, full drawdown, and go. So it's dumb shit for sure if you're going to do it and your rebuild's already a week away and you're up and you have all this opportunity to pass. You don't want to rebuild. You want to pass it before the rebuild, and you can do that for sure. Yeah, it's not worth it. There is definitely strategies to it as far as passing and doing it that way. I just think that overall you just need to just stick to the plan, let it go. Don't just do something to do it. because you feel like doing dumb shit. Don't do it. Can we squeeze through 200? I don't know, but I'm going to go use the bathroom and then I'll be right back and we'll finish this stream off by not doing dumb shit. For those of you who play like a longer strategy, a longer term, long idea, maybe like a grindy type buy, I mentioned right here that price was speeding up right around this time where we closed the gap in NVIDIA, right? You close the gap here in NVIDIA, right there, and it's at 945. 945. We got a little bit of manipulation down here and rotate. I started to talk about if you were a bull, this is where you would start to look to try and be long for that final move where it's going to push to the high side, right? This is where you need to get long right here. So that was my thought on it. I talked about it. If you kind of rewind to like 945, I did mention that price did have a little bit of speed up, a little bit of manipulation there. This kind of action seemed trappy. And the fact that we never made it down lower with NVIDIA closing the gap, pushing up into those levels, this called for like if you're like one of those longer term like buy and hold and see where it goes type of traders, that's where it is. Yeah, it's crazy how VWAP on S&P is at the top and opening range, but on low end on NQ. Yeah, sometimes they lead, sometimes they lag, sometimes they work exactly the same. You just need to find out who is doing what kind of quickly in the day and then see where it ends up for you. The 200 flashed and now it's gone. 60 contracts at 207. Can we get up over that 200? Will it give us an opportunity at our overnight highs to get involved before that hourly close? Or will it wait till 11 and then finally give me my opportunity to short that overnight high? We'll see. We will see. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about my thoughts on the day, the week? We had another solid week of sticking to our plans, not getting involved in this chop today. Sitting here, not executing is just as good as clicking buttons because your cash is a position, right? If there's not an opportunity for you, save your bullets for the time when your A+ setup comes along, maximize those trades, and then move on and just, take your base hits as they come. And just stay out of these choppy sessions where you're going to just bleed yourself out. If you made money today, then good. Lock out, get out of here. If you didn't, also just as fine to lock yourself out and not feel the pressure of did I miss something? Did I miss something? Did I miss something? Go enjoy your Friday. I have work after this. I gotta make sure I clean up some coffee order stuff and do some of that after I get off the stream. I work the weekends, but I try to enjoy them as much as I can, away from the ideas of charts and stuff. And I don't want to feel the pressure of, I know I could go execute, so I will, right? That kind of mentality gets you running back to the chart when you're not set up, and that's how you make you're doing dumb shit. opening range, high holding, overnight high holding in the S&Ps. I'm going to still stick to not executing. 2 more minutes here until 5 till the close, which leads me to no executions. NVIDIA is moving downside, still in that overnight gap from at yesterday's close to today's open as far as overnight and pre-market hours. We're kind of just lingering in that gap there. Could end up accumulating, maybe manipulating to the downside, then pushing back up higher, or could just flush the low and rotate even down lower. I would hope to see this push up over the overnight high sometime quick, after that 11 o'clock hour. The more I approach 11 o'clock, the more I'm ready to just hit the lockout button. I can't execute a trade now until after 11 o'clock. So anybody who wants to go over anything for the week, what the week has brought for us or not, let me know. This is our performance for the week. This both of these accounts copied 50Ks. We went up 407, 241. We had no trades on the 24th. We journaled it. We had no good A-plus setups. We worked on patience and discipline. No executions as of 10, and then no executions at all in the session. Consider it a green day. So every day on stream, we have been green, or we have stuck to our plan that I consider as a green day. When you start to base your days on executions and on process oriented, the green days are only when you execute your process. You could be red and still have a green day, right? This is a red day and a red execution day. Should have never even happened, like I said, because I was trading through a hurricane, in and out of power, in and out of internet. Dumb idea, right? But since then, we've been streaming every single day, except the days that we haven't streamed, the 16th and the 17th, we did not execute, stuck to the plan there. This week, once again, another 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, a little over 800 for the week across 2 different accounts. It's the same deal. And then the 100K, same. Made good executions, did not execute on Wednesday. And now today, Friday, seems like we're not going to execute either. We're going to be waiting and seeing what happens with this chart moving forward. But I'm trying to stay as transparent as possible with you guys, showing you the good and the bad. Over the course of the period of the history of this stream, I've been trying to be as consistent as possible, showing you, my executions. When I'm not feeling great and when I'm not sticking to my plan, you'll see it. When I am sticking to my plan, you'll hopefully see it, like today, where we just sat on our hands all day. We did not execute. We did not make any sort of rash decisions around levels that maybe were not as indicative of what could have happened, right? Maybe these are opportunities, but they're not opportunities for me, right? I've been told this before, and I'll reiterate it again. Just because the market moves doesn't mean there was a trade. And if you can stick to that mantra of don't do dumb shit, right, you're going to recognize that more and more often, that if the market's going to move, it's going to do whatever it's going to do. If you don't see what you want to see out of a trade, then you don't actually have a trade. Just pretend like price never did anything. It doesn't really matter what it did here, because this move and this move, yes, although they were failed breakouts of a key level, to me, I'm not looking to execute that on a Friday and start to incorporate that for the day. So I'm not going to look to do that, right? Stick to your plan, allow your A-plus setups, allow your levels to come into play. If I don't ever hit an overnight high and overnight low on a day, it means just I have no opportunities. There really is just this kind of shitty, choppy price action is the likely outcome of a day like that. Now, let's say this move here, this move here, and this one here happened, but they happened up here. If those moves happened up here, I could have executed those, right, based on my strategy. But since they didn't happen up at that level, this is away from my level, this is away from my zone. I'm not able to manage my risk properly. I'm not able to do things that I want to do that are going to continually make me successful. And sometimes things just don't set up. And the more you could accept that reality, of course I wanted to make money today. I don't come to the screen to just sit here and do nothing. But at the same time, I come to the screen, and if I can practice the discipline of not doing something, it's actually increasing the odds that when I do what I am supposed to do, that it's going to work out and I'm going to actually be able to grow my account and be able to make money, take withdrawals. You could pass a combine if you don't trade every day. It's fine, right? Don't let the fear of having to pass or the pressure of having to pass a combine lead you to making bad decisions. Don't lead it to, you making choices just because you feel like you have to trade. That's kind of what some of the combines are meant to do. They're meant to kind of trap you into getting into those bad habits, so you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. You don't want to fall into that trap. You want to execute appropriately. Seems to me that I'm not going to get an opportunity today. And that's all she wrote here at 11 o'clock. Nothing to do. We have literally gone nowhere this entire day in the NASDAQ. S&P's showing relative strength, right? Pushing up over overnight highs, trying to approach up into those 55.33 area. Maybe, if that can drag us up into that all the way up there, then maybe you have an opportunity to fade this overnight high. I'm going to give this market 10 more minutes. And if it doesn't set up for me, if I don't get something at the overnight high, then I'm going to go and enjoy the little bit of time that I have in between here and work and do what I got to do. I got to cook some chicken for the wife as well at the barbecue here. So another thing I got to do, we'll see. See what happens in the next 10 minutes. Anybody got anything that they want me to run down for the weekend? Look out for the weekly write-up. I will post that Sunday night after I get home from work. Usually I'm posting it just before midnight on Sunday. If you don't get to it Sunday night, read it Sunday morning before you get to the charts. It's a nice little recap of kind of like the weekend. I'll recap this week that we had here on price action, understanding where price has gone to tell us where price may be going moving forward. Trying to understand the dynamics of the market and give you just a good outlook over a period of time. If you have downtime and you feel like you need to read something, go back and read a couple of the last few weeks write-ups and just see how they played out during the week and see if it's going to be helpful for you. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to kind of read the write-up, then look at the week ahead, and then do it again and look at the next week and see kind of like how price did end up. The more I do those, the more I think I should be swing trading things and doing that. But at the end of the day, we are intraday traders here at Policing Pips on Tradecaster.com, on YouTube, at Policing Pips, also on Twitter and on Instagram. Follow me over there. Head over to daytradingcoffeeco.com. Buy yourself some trading fuel. It is trading fuel, freshly roasted beans, right to your door. I think Black Rifle Coffee, but for traders. That's the kind of inspiration that we have there. Use code Policing Pips. It's running across the bottom of the screen at the code Policing Pips to get yourself 15% off all your orders. Oh. I like this push-up. So, like I said, I'm giving it 10 more minutes in the stream. I do want to see if I get an opportunity at the overnight highs, just even to get a quick little piece and be done. You might get it here, but also at the same time, the healthiness of the amount of accumulation here might just push us through and then just keep going. So I don't want to be trapped in a short if it's going to keep doing that, right? Took a long time to catch up to the S&Ps, and the S&Ps is just going straight up. So kind of not my favorite setup, especially a little later in the day here. I'm going to see what happens to the first initial break of it. I'm not going to hammer in right away. If it just V bottoms, V tops or whatever and runs, then so be it. But I'm going to wait and see if it'll go. I'm only going to take one shot only if it gets there, since we are late in the day, win or lose. Yes. Flash Boys is the book by Michael Lewis. It's great. Kind of will just give you the story of market manipulation, high frequency trading, and the kind of the lengths that they'll go to in order to beat you in this market. And if you think you're just here on your laptop, on your computer screen, and you're just going to hammer into buttons through that chop and be able to beat those guys, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. If you're going to trade non-farm with size and have no plan for it, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, right? That book is really going to open your eyes to maybe how some of the regulation came into play as a result, and maybe made it even easier for them to do things the way that they did them. And so just kind of, it's something that I think is it's an entertaining book. It is educational. It's factual. It's kind of all encompassing. It's not going to give you a how to trade, kind of book. It's not that kind of book, but it is something that should open your eyes to really what's going on behind the scenes when we're out here, trading on these firms and stuff like that on the computer, and what they're looking at, right? Right into that upper band of VWAP, one standard deviation out. Get up over that overnight high. Unusual Whales tweeted. What did they tweet? Governor Gavin Newsom has issued an executive order for the removal of homeless encampments in the state. That's a surprise. They're finally giving up on that. Let's see if we get something here. I am not so convinced that this is going to fail to be finally now. However, I am not convinced. I'm not convinced. This could be an actual good breakout. So I'm going to wait. Be patient. Be patient. Let it go. Do its thing. S&Ps does have that resistance right here at 55.15. That could be interesting. That could help us. But 55.25 as well. And then up into 55.33. Let it go. See what happens. Stick to my plans. I've been waiting all day for this opportunity, or any opportunity of sorts. So let's see if I can get it. NVIDIA is still kind of giving me that low base selling pattern that I would like to see, maybe a break. So we can get a wick of this overnight high. I did mention I don't know if this white line would hold. This is potentially the breakdown point. However, after waiting all day for it, I don't think that this is the point. 70% long, starting to get tilty long. Maybe if we can get through that high, we can then rotate back down. So this is like a pause in between those two levels. Just checking to see if there's any size on the books. 61 below, 48 above at 241. So maybe we get it. Let's see. Get up there. If it sells from here, like I said, I'm not going to be upset to miss it. I did wait all day for it. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to let my level come into play and try and hit it when it comes. And if the failure actually does play out, My standoffishness comes with this 30-minute chart, right? You could see the accumulation, longer term, inside bar, breakout, and then now you're kind of pushing through and looking to actually give you a good breakout. Like this could run up to 250, 240, maybe even higher. If it does such a thing, then maybe that's when I get to look for the short, right? Maybe this is a good spot. I just need this to line up, wick that high, like a really strong push up, get up into there, and then start to rotate back down. Give me that good stop in, flush through, at least get myself the blue to the white, and then maybe I'll be able to trail through the white and see if it gets me a little bit of heaviness in that market. So like I said, 70% tilt, starting to slow down on the delta, which is nice, but you can still see it coming. Does the white line act as the actual area, or are we going to clean up that number from pre-market? We got so close to it. Do you think that we won't actually tag it? Probably unlikely. Normally, I don't want to stay late on a Friday. However, this does feel like we had to be patient to let the level come into play and then see if it works out. Like I said, I want to take one shot and one shot only. I want to let this thing confirm to me completely. Do I even wait for this white line to come into play and then play the breakdown there? So if we wick the overnight high and then rotate white, I'm going to still play with the overnight level. See if it's going to be a failed breakout or if it's just going to sit. So now we are above that level. I want to see if we can get up into that 50s. I mentioned 15s on the S&Ps could be a good area for resistance just based on that consolidation. So I'm going to give you a couple of levels here, this, and then I'll give you this one here. Those are areas for S&Ps to kind of push into. Do we squeeze this? 71%. If that's just going to be the failure right there, that's crazy. And no, NVIDIA's pushing up. I don't think that's it for it yet. NVIDIA's pushing higher. We are getting that wedge type pattern here. So that is something that I like to look for. If we can hold this, maybe one or two more touches. Doesn't seem like it wants to. Seems like it's breaking down here. I'll give it one shot here through this level. Be quick with it to the break even. There we go. Take my $100 for the day across two accounts. I'm going to take that. All right, there we go. I caught $100 across two accounts. Caught my quick little move based on the short there from the top. Could have followed through a little more, but based on the way today is going, this is just going to do not what I want it to do. I was a little hesitant to take that short right there, right then, but it gave me enough of a move to mitigate, take my $100 and run. Leader got 100, follower got 100. We are now up green again. Gave ourselves 10 extra minutes to finally execute a trade. Do I think that the short was right here at the overnight high? Yes. This was probably the spot right there. I'm going to note it here. I'm going to lock these accounts out. We're going to lock out here, up $100. Just because if this was earlier in the day, I would have taken it and I would have held it a little longer. Maybe I would have executed immediately on that break. This to me, is just being a little tricky here. I think it might need more time to set up, and I just don't have the time to do it. Just understand your timing. If it's going to go now, let it go now. Take that short. If you do, hopefully you make some money on it. You could be risk-free basically on it now and seeing if it can just continue to sell side pressure its way back down into that opening range. I drew this level up for you right in front of you. So you do know that this was where I was looking for the S&Ps to get to confirm our breakdown. So it helped us out here a little bit. So we're locked out. Another green day. Give it to me. Like I said, it's not, I don't care if it's a big win, big lose, whatever. I'm going to take my base hit. I trailed out. It didn't go fast as I wanted it to. It's going to keep rolling here potentially, and then you could
hopefully you are catching more of this move, maybe 20 points down to 200. But for me, I waited so long for this to set up, and I didn't really want to be here any longer. So I'll take my $100 and I'll run and then keep my green streak alive. We stuck to our plan. A+ on sticking to the plan, waiting. We extended our day a little bit, but it's all right. Maybe I'll switch over to the 100K if I get another push up through the overnight high. But looks like that was a great timing on that. Just didn't hold it, right? So overall, good idea there. Hopefully somebody greened on that. Scott, do you take any trades on that or what? Or did you lock out earlier? It's fine. Like I said, I trailed it quickly too, and realistically, this could just not follow through. This didn't quite. I mean, it's set up pretty good. As I mentioned, we wanted to see this kind of setup here. We want to see a rising wedge up on this. There's no reason to kind of force this. How? And oh yeah, I forgot you said you were down a little bit. You chopped yourself up. Just don't do dumb shit, right? I waited all day. I really should have been off at 11. I didn't do dumb shit. I saw my level coming into play. Sometimes I extend past. Sometimes I trade after 11. But this is just take my trade, trail out for as much as I can as quickly as possible, and I'm out, right? So now you're going to get another push up. If it decides to get up over that overnight high, maybe you get another opportunity. But for me, this is a deep pullback in the S&P. Still maybe he wants to retest that. Everything here kind of giving you indications of short, but then also you got a strong delta push. The accumulation down below leads me to believe that at some point this could be a confirmed breakout, and this could just continue to stair step up. So just note that we have a lot of room to the upside. There's a lot of room to the downside, but we pulled back a whole lot this week. The end of the, maybe somebody's going to capitalize on the lower volume afternoon here in the day. So yeah, good job, Carlos. I'm glad you didn't trade. Monday's a better day. This was just not an ideal trading environment, right? No real good opportunities here until right here when I had that red arrow right there. So I already locked out of these. I don't care what happens to the market the rest of the day. We're going to give you that write-up Sunday night. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it well. If there's anything you guys want me to include, go to last week's write-up. Just type up in that little comment box at the very bottom what you want me to include in the write-up for this week. If you're cool with what I got, I might include S&P levels just for some people, but nothing. There's nothing that's different in the analysis other than some little bit chart differences. Yeah, enjoy your weekend. Go into it knowing that you didn't do dumb shit. Go to the website, get yourself a mug, get yourself a shirt, and I will talk to you guys all Monday morning. Until then, peace out. Great week, everybody.